Welcome to another episode of Love Living Local 315. We are your hosts, Scott and Kelly Greats, and today we are joined by Sal Longo, a self-made entrepreneur from Utica, founder of Northern Safety, CEO of Zing Green Products, and the force behind some of the region's most exciting hospitality ventures. He's built businesses, given back, and never stopped investing in his hometown. Welcome, Sal.
Yeah, welcome there, Scott and Kelly. Thank you.
So listen, let's start with Northern Safety, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
As an entrepreneur myself, your story is amazing. Truly starting out of the back of your car. Take us back to the roots where all this started.
Well, it just started. I started in the slaughterhouse back at, I was 13. Actually, you're supposed to be 14, but I said I was 14. And I worked in a slaughterhouse till I was 20 years old, and that kind of gave us the inspiration to get into the safety business. So starting selling and peddling first aid and safety out of a truck and just knocking on doors and building your business around the customers. Yeah. Seeing what their needs were and trying to fulfill them as best you could, and continuous improvement, working and stay focused around the customer. And I did that for 38 years. So,
you did a whole yada, yada, yada in there. You're like, you just take care of the customer, yada, 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 and here we are.
Yeah, and here we are.
So looking back, what were the biggest challenges in scaling Northern Safety? Because, you're talking about knocking on doors and then national,
global. Yeah.
Global.
Yeah, well, I think everything comes down to, as you're getting better, it comes down to the teams you have around you, the people. And I was always a hands-on CEO is what I would describe myself as. And I would work an area, build it, and then hand it off to somebody else to run. And I, got the opportunity to build every facet of that business. And, whether it was in sales, whether it was in marketing, finance, customer service, warehousing, shipping, technology, e-commerce, so I was involved in all of that. And so from doing all of those various jobs and being on the road, it's, they say genius is 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration. I think Thomas Edison said that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the fact. I just worked really hard at everything, and what I lacked in talent or skill, I made up in being committed and outworking the competition and everyone else. And
I think that's important as a CEO too, because you get a lot of people that try to come in and manage people and have never actually done what they're asking them to do. So being that you were a part of every department and building it, I'm sure it made you a much better leader for your team because you could relate to them. Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's certainly easy to get buy-in when you do something like that and they know the job.
Exactly.
And, so working in all those areas, being committed, and then after you work in all those areas, you circle back and kind of like take, work in those areas again on a limited basis. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like getting current on your, skill sets. Mm-hmm. And so I always look at it as I work in a circle, and I start from, like a clock. I'll start at 12 o'clock and I'll go all the way around till I hit 12 again and then do it all over again. And so it's great. I love the people I work with. That's one of my prerequisites. People have always said you don't have to like someone to work with them. I think that's a bunch of BS because you'll do anything to avoid people that you don't like, and you won't communicate with them. It's just very difficult. And so I really tried to surround myself with people that I enjoy being with. We work, we communicate together. We're always trying to get better at what we're doing. And I think that's really has been the key to my success.
As an employee, sometimes you have to deal with people you don't like, right? This is what it is in the workplace. As an employer, this was a total mind-blowing experience for me. I'm like, not only do I not like them, but I'm paying them. Why am I paying someone I don't like? I'm going into my own business and I don't like this person. It doesn't make sense. When we talk about scaling, right, this is very difficult for entrepreneurs, for young business owners, because you got to check your ego. right? The key to scaling is to constantly replace yourself, like you mentioned, right? I did this, then I had someone else do it, then I did this, then I had someone else do it. And delegation is very hard for type A's, right? Who want control. It's your business, right? How difficult was that for you? Is that something you had to work yourself through, letting go of control, trusting other people in order to grow this thing?
Well, I think it all comes down to leadership. And I always have focused on becoming a better leader, self-development. And, I developed a whole leadership course at Northern. So we had principles of leadership development. We had human resources and leadership development to teach our leaders how to handle people, the principles of leadership. So we were always focused on leadership and training. And really what a lot of it is, and letting things go, is make sure you have the team aligned. So if you all have a vision, you have direction, you have focus. My job as the leader of the organization is to create a vision for my teams, all the people throughout the organization, create that vision, then give them direction and say, hey, now we're going to hold you accountable to execute those things. And so, and if not, we're going to audit you. As a leader, you have to become a great auditor. Yeah. And you have to allow people to do their jobs. And if you're looking for perfection, it doesn't exist. So you have to look at people that do things right consistently most of the time, not all of the time, and try to minimize the big errors or the second mistakes. We just don't keep making the same mistakes over and over again. So it's really, I try to sometimes dumb everything down and keep it simple and stupid, but I think it really is simple and stupid. It's what I've learned as a kid, and and those principles growing up is how I manage my business. I treat people the way I want to be treated. I try to give them an opportunity if they want the opportunity. If they don't want to do it and they want to just be a pillar of a certain area, allow that to happen as well. Yeah. So, not everybody is meant to be a leader, wants to be a leader. Some people want to be led. And some people, but you still could be a leader of yourself or the work that you do. And so getting back to the question, it's always been easy for me, because I've always understood that the pain of not changing or allowing people to do things was going to be greater than the pain of it was not going to allow me to achieve my objectives if I wasn't willing to share the power. Share power, you increase power. Share trust, you increase trust. And even in my leadership classes, I would say, people say, I don't trust anyone. I say, well, that's a hard way to live, where you don't trust anyone. Yeah. I start out trusting everyone, but you start out with a little trust. You don't have to, trust somebody with your life. Mm-hmm. But trust them to start with, and then you build on that trust. And it's more of a philosophy.
Yeah, it's great advice. And one thing I talk about is trust, but verify, right? You want to trust people, but they've got to prove.
Earn it. Yeah,
they got to earn it.
Yeah. So our son worked at Northern Safety for quite a few summers, and he enjoyed it there. He had a great time there, him and his buddies, and your staff was fantastic. You sold Northern Safety, and you retired for 10 months. You decided you couldn't be retired
didn't retire
anymore.
for 10 months either.
We'll get to the other ventures, but I figured this was a good segue into Zing Green Products, which is safety solutions. And why don't you talk a little bit about your new business?
Yeah. Well, it's been interesting. When I stepped out of Northern, I was like, what did I do? Okay.
After you did it, you're like, what am I going to do?
What am I going to do?
Yeah.
Seller's remorse.
Obviously, it not always works out the way you envisioned it.
Right.
And, it was no fault of, anything other than inexperience and starting out as a young man and building something. And then after I was out, it was like, okay, this is not going to work for me. I got to find something to get into.
Yep.
And, in that process, locally, I opened up Rockies, and that's how I said I'd never go in that business. Everybody still quotes me on it forever. Mm-hmm. And it was
we never say never, right?
Never say never. And, I was up north, and it's like, we can't get any good Italian food. I have to go to Utica every time, being up in Hinckley. So, well, I guess I'm going to have to never say never. I'm going to have to go back on that. And, so I started Rockies and up north, and that was more, my kids call it my community project, and so from there I'm like, okay, I'm in the business now, and now I have to figure out how to make it work. If it's going to be, it needs to be sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that brought me down the path of Stonebridge, Valley View with Tito's and Romans and Kuyahoora, of course, mirroring that up with Rockies. And while I was doing all those other side projects, I've been looking for another business to go into. I looked at an automobile business that I went in, and that didn't go very well, and so that's like a crash and burn. And then I found a company that I've been working with for a couple of years called Zing Green Safety Products out of Illinois, and I was negotiating with him as far back as 3 years. So I was really just out of Northern, and I was already looking at other businesses. I said, if one thing don't go, something's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, I was already anticipating. I said, if I start two businesses, I'm at 50%. One has to work, and the other can crash and burn. If they both work, great. But and then if they both crash and burn, then okay, maybe I am retired.
You would have went on to
maybe
it.
I feel like you would have made something work
Right.
for sure.
So Zing Green, and I love the name Zing.
Yep.
And so I love the name from a marketing perspective. I said I could do something with this company. And Zing Green Safety Products. So Zing was focused on what they call lockout, tagout, locks out power so that somebody can't turn on the power when a worker is going in to do their job and accidentally either electrocute them, kill them, injure them, or injure that person or whatever. And then I said, I'm going to get that and use that as like a beachhead to, start the business, and then I'm going to blow it up into everything. So I've owned the company now for just a little over a year and 2 months. We went from just lockout, tagout, where we have our own line of safety glasses, our own line of work gloves, protective clothing, head protection. We have signs and various things in addition to lockout, tagout, eye wash station. So we have full line of personal protective equipment. And I have some other things I'm doing, looking at acquisitions that I can't talk about because people would know that work for me, who I'm negotiating with and acquiring other companies to get into the manufacturing, potentially locally. So, I'm doing all that. And then I acquired from my old company, Northern Safety, I acquired their customization business. And so now they're, one of my largest customers doing all their custom work.
Yep, I read that.
And, and the relationship there is really good. They've been, we've really worked good together. I'm not competing with them. And I'm trying to, now that they're my customer, I'm trying to build my business around people like that. But we also do business with the Grangers of the world and, many of the other bigger companies. And we just actually had our eyewear get in one of the largest industrial distributors this past week, which was a huge win because we're going from being a distributor, and we manufactured, because I've done that for 25 years, the manufacturing side, to just a manufacturer. And so right now we're starting out just in North America. And I don't want to say just North America.
Just one continent.
Yeah, just one continent. But I have, in my back of my head, I have Europe and other countries, in South America. But right now I'm trying to just get the business and make it where it becomes profitable and growing. And I have, I started off with like 9 people, and now we have like 50-something people. And everybody's, aligned, focused. I happen to have a bunch of people because I bought all the Northern, when I bought the custom business, all the employees from Northern became, they stopped working for Northern on Friday and started working for me on Monday, which was really weird,
right?
And it was a business I created. Yeah. But it was actually cool because they all thought they were losing their jobs, and everybody was emotional and teary and crying and whatever. And it was like, now we're working back for you again. And so it's
cool full circle moment.
Full circle. So it's and I'm in my one of my original buildings.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. And this is all in Industrial Park in Frankfurt.
Yep.
Yeah, and you're in a space that obviously lights you up. Like you can hear it in your voice. Like you're passionate about this, and it's awesome that you're back at it. Talk about the green initiative. right? So I mean, that's a little bit different, unique spin on this space.
Well, we're really the first company to focus on sustainable safety products. So the majority of our products are made with recycled packaging, whether it be the bags like in safety glasses, the boxes. They're made all premium safety products. So I'm focused on high end. I don't want to say high end, but really top quality. Obviously, they're priced to sell. And so using sustainable, and then in the glasses, we use different materials. And like in the glasses, the temples are made with recycled materials. So you can't have anything on the lenses because obviously with the eyes, you can't have safety ever compromised. With the gloves, we use 30% plus of materials of compostable things, whether it be twigs and leaves or, natural environmental things that they use in the manufacture of the fibers for the yarns. We use recycled fabric, we have a whole protective clothing line that I think is going to be huge. And that starts landing here in March, end of March, early April. It's all made 100%, 99% of recycled materials. And, so that goes well. And that goes with the customization. So the customization, so the focus is there. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is, we get into the eye wash things because it's, you're trying to make a full line of things. You're trying to make them high quality. Well, how do you do it and be, friendly to the earth and things? Like if you make eye wash, it's all metals. So that's a dirty industry. So we go in and then say, okay, well, let's get into a 14,001 environmental friendly factory. So there's always environmental things or recycling things or other things to do to make products and that are focused on that or made in the USA.
Yep.
So those are really the focus that we have. A lot of signs that we make, all recycled materials, hard hats, we're having made for us in the U.S. We're looking at signs. Either we're going to make them ourselves or use another OEM that we work really closely with that's made in the United States. And I certainly would like to bring manufacturing back to our area here just because that was like always one of the things I wanted to do since before I was in business. I always wanted to make things.
So you're touching on some legacy pieces, right? So how much has your mindset changed through the years where now you're a family guy, you've got kids, you've got grandkids, you start thinking about sustainability, taking care of the earth, taking care of the area. We can jump into the generous donation you made to Proctor Park. So how much have you started shifting to the legacy piece of, I want people to remember the impact I made locally 100 years from now?
Well, I really never think about that. Okay. I just always am trying to be a better version of myself. And, I'm never been one to pat myself on the back and think like that. I always say that the, high performers, and again, it comes back to leadership training. I always say that your high performers all have one thing in common. They always think less of themselves. And low performers have one thing in common. They always think more of themselves, I really try to focus on how I could become better. And really the legacy is really more of me just trying to do a good job. I know I'm only here so long, and while I'm here, I'm going to try to make a difference. So if I could help teach people, if I can make their lives better, if they're, if they have issues at home, I like to think that work can be a refuge. So I put a lot of investment in human resources, whether it be human resource people running the hiring process and everything else, to leadership training, which is part of human resources. We're not perfect. We're humans, and it's not easy. But, my focus is just, trying to build something. And in this particular area, I have my kids are all in their 30s now. And I think that, Northern, they never saw what it took to build a business from scratch. And now they're getting a witness. Whoa, this is pretty scary doing all this stuff at the same time. And, and I try to say, hey, you have to have trust. You have to have faith. By making a lot of good decisions, you increase your odds of success. But it's going to take a lot of work. And so my legacy, I really just want to be thought of as, a good father, a good person, and someone who, left this place better than when I got here. So
Well, you're doing it.
You know,
You're
For
clearly
sure.
a worker.
Yeah.
So
Do you rest? What's downtime look like?
well, I've been trying to discuss that, but I'm not very good at resting. My brain is like always working. Maybe when I sleep.
Yeah,
That's about the only time.
relate to that one.
And the work really is not work.
Yeah, you love it.
It's part of what I enjoy. So it's
Right, it keeps you going.
It makes a difference. Put myself out on the edge, which I seem to always. I can't get away from risking things, and just there's no comfort zone for me.
Yeah. Cool.
So let's get a little bit into the restaurant space now.
Yeah.
You started with Rocky's.
Yeah.
Right? That was your first restaurant.
It was.
And beautiful space up on Hinckley. We had a camp across the lake on Hinckley.
We were over at Donnie's campground.
Yeah, we were over at Adirondack Lakeside. What was the name of it? I don't know.
Donnie's place.
Donnie's place,
Betsy's
whatever.
place, really.
And it is beautiful up there.
Yeah.
I mean, you have boat access now, right?
Yep.
So that's a big thing. Talk a little bit about that space. And then Trails End, too, the campgrounds as well, for people that have campers.
Yes. Well, that was just part of the thing. Just up there, I ended up at Hinckley just because it was convenient, and I always am working.
That's why we ended up at Hinckley,
And
so that we
it's-
were a half hour from home.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly. It was easy. The water is clean.
Yep.
And, you have to deal with the BS and the water management, which is torture. But other than that, it's great.
It is.
If they could keep it in and you just do other things. So, no, being up there, and I started out, and, I was building a corporate retreat up there,
It is beautiful.
and which
By the
is
way.
Kuyahoora,
Yep.
which was built for Northern. But the problem was I only had one client for it, which was Northern. And when I left Northern, I was like, what am I going to do with all this
Yeah.
stuff? And, being up there and, where everything was going, there's really, there's restaurants, but everything is just not
Nothing to that level.
not at that level.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get something that was like, comparable to the best food that you can get in Utica.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what started up at Rocky's. And, that concept just grew and continued to evolve, and, trying to make it work up there, and especially staying open in the winter.
Yeah.
It is a destination, though. People go up there for the atmosphere. It's beautiful.
A
the
lot
bar.
of people now come from Utica, drive from Utica to go there.
Yeah, for sure.
I think you probably initially thought people from the North Country, but you're getting people from Utica there.
Yep.
The thing I'll say, and not to cut you,
Yeah.
the thing I would say about that is when I built it, I said you're in the middle of nowhere, but ultimately what ended up happening is you're in the middle of everywhere
Yes,
from a destination spot,
for sure.
because you're close to Rome, just as close to Rome as you are to Utica and to the valley.
And Boonville, and yeah.
Boonville in the North
Boonville,
Country.
yeah.
So it worked out, and it does quite well even even in the winter. So
And your brunch there is amazing, by the way. So
good, thank you, thank you.
I think you must serve Bloody Marys.
Bloody Marys and mimosas,
Yeah,
for
if
sure.
if she likes it that much. What was the biggest surprise in the restaurant space? Like, you're obviously a planner, you're a doer. What were you like? Holy crap! I didn't think this was.
That I went into the business in the first place.
Yeah.
you just said, what am I doing here?
What am I doing here?
Yeah.
That was the first surprise. And then once I do something, it's like, okay, I have to make this work.
Yeah.
Other people make it work. We have to figure out how to make it work, which led to, expanding it into other areas.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the businesses run under one leadership team.
Okay.
So, when you look at Romans or Tito's now or Stonebridge or Rockies or Kuyahoora, which are doing weddings, and they're beautiful
Yeah,
weddings.
it's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
spot.
I mean, the weddings
Yeah.
have gone outstanding up there. And now we're just trying to work, because to make it work in that business, it's very difficult. And I think, the thing that probably scared me most, I don't get scared very easily, but the thing that scared me most with Romans and Tito's was, okay, people would say, well, why would you put yourself out there? You have nothing to prove. I said, well, nothing to prove to anybody else.
Yeah.
I'm trying to prove it to myself.
Sure.
And but the thing that scared me the most was bringing up a place like that with all the, like with Romans and Tito's, with, 100 plus associates or employees. And how are you going to get all these people and put a team together along with the Stonebridge and, and continue with Zing and all these things. But fortunately, it just seemed that it was a heck of a lot easier than I thought it would be.
And it goes back to what you said earlier. People.
The people that you have.
You surround yourself with good people and let them do their thing. One thing that I will say, looking at this from the outside in the last few years and going back to what you said about just leaving this place a little better than you found it, everything you touch gets better, right? And for the people, for us, right? Trails End was all right. And then you took it over and now it's really nice.
It is.
Right? Stonebridge was all right. And I think we could say declining, right? And now it's gorgeous, Valley View, ups and downs. It's beautiful.
Beautiful golf course. Yeah, for sure.
So you go in and put your money where your mouth is, right? And invest and really everything's better. So I guess thank you.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. It's been a lot of fun, and it's important because it helps me do my job when people trust me and they have faith. And I think that's probably the biggest lesson, especially with Valley View, when I took people in there and I hired my top executive chef and my GM there, and they were, in Valley View, and it's like, what are you doing? 'Cause the building didn't look very good at the time.
It was a project. I mean, that was like a year, wasn't it? I mean,
it was almost tear down condition.
Yeah.
And they thought about tearing it down. And, fortunately, Rob Palmieri at the time, and he went through a bid process, and I was able to give a compelling, presentation on why I thought that I would be the best to take this thing over and what it would take to take it over. You're going to need to have some experience there and restaurant experience. You're going to need to know building and construction because that building was in really bad shape. And then, and you need capital because if you open up and it tanks, you lost every nickel you just put in it.
Right.
And, and I'm not trying to, make a fortune on that thing. You're just trying to make a little money and cover. It's not sustainable if you don't make a little money.
Sure. But
where I was going with it is, but when people who are not familiar with me from Northern, and, now I'm proving myself in a different industry, and they remember back 2 years or almost 2 years when I hired some of these folks, and they see that you had the vision to do that. And now when I'm trying to teach them new things and behavioral changes that they have to make in order for us to be successful over a long period of time and have a sustainable business model for many years to come, it's easier to convince them that you know what you're doing, So I'm, trying to tell them, hey, you have to trust me. Just like remember when you first got here and we were in the building in the basement at Valley View and you're like, what did I get myself into? And now you look at it, and it really did come beautiful. And I'm very pleased with that. I'm very pleased with the staff and the organization. And
here's the biggest compliment I can give you on Roman specifically. We went there in November for Kelly's mom's birthday, brought our daughter. Between my wife and my daughter, they never finish a meal. Never. We're always, there were 4 totally empty plates. Not because the portions were small, but just everything was so good.
It was delicious.
And we never, ever, ever finish. All 4 of us would finish something.
And I do want to get into, for the listeners that don't know, the different spaces. And I love what you've done there. At Romans, if you want more of a sit down, I mean, I got the surf and turf. It was fantastic. My mother got scallops. Jenna got the spaghetti and meatballs, which is great. You have a huge variety on that menu that everybody can find what they like if you want a sit down. The bar area in Romans is beautiful too. It's huge. When we went in, we eat early. We were there like 5 o'clock. We're there for the early bird special. We left at 7 o'clock and the bar was packed in Romans. So a lot of people are even opting just to sit at the bar and have apps. But then what's really cool is you have Tito's across the hall, which is more of bigger tables, bar setting, sandwiches, soups, where you can go watch a game. So it's amazing that you've created two
Multi-purpose,
spaces
yeah.
exactly in there that I challenge anybody to go there and not find something that they absolutely love in each environment. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, that was a challenge.
I'm sure.
The debates that went on over the food, especially when you're dealing with the chefs or executive chefs, because she's you know, I have a younger executive chef, and you know, Lindsay Cook. She does a great job. I always like to do a call out on her, but she'll challenge me in the systems, and I'll challenge her because, you know, the thing is I want a different price points so that everybody can go there. If they wanted to split a steak sandwich, they can still afford to go there, or you know, regular handheld, you know, whether it's $20 and you want to split something, and try to keep things, you know, affordable. I mean, it's all, you know, perspective. I mean, I can't guarantee what it is, but handling Tito's and then make it a viable business, because everybody keeps thinking it's just Tito's just for the golf course. It's not.
No.
It's for the community.
Yep.
And it's, you know, we're going to go to 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do 11:30 to 8, like right now, or 8:30 or 9, whenever we close, when somebody leaves. To the golf season, we want to go from 7:30 to 9:10 at night at Tito's. And I think that, you know, certainly you're going to have the golf, but once people get used to doing those things, and we've also managed these businesses, intentionally started them up slower and overstaffed them, because we didn't want to have bad experiences, whether it be food or service. So we wanted, I mean, obviously with restaurant business, you're always going to have somebody complain. It could be great, and it could be,
Listen,
they're going to complain
You're
about
gonna
it.
have people complain no matter what sometimes. Yeah.
But we intentionally tried to start it off slow. We did soft openings for 3 straight days, practiced on, you know, whoever. I did no formal invitations, just, you know, random. You know, I run into somebody, hey, we're doing a soft opening these days. And we tried to manage that and then get it running and getting into our systems, where now it's been over 2 months. And I think that we achieved what we intended on achieving. And that is a consistent product and consistent service. And we're trying to get better again, you know. So and we think we can handle a lot more now. But Tito's and Romans, like you said, exactly. You can go to Tito's, and I have a lot of friends that bring friends, and they have burgers or sandwich or soups and salads or cocktails, and great environment.
It is.
Panoramic view of the golf
Exactly.
course.
And I mean,
Wait until it gets nice.
every
That's what I'm saying, like-
detail. This isn't surprising, but you know, you got the attention to detail was amazing from the moment you pull up to we walk in to everything. It's just was top notch.
Yep.
So, well done.
Stonebridge, do we want to talk about? Stonebridge will be
we
open
can do Stonebridge quick, and then let's rapid
this
fire.
season, right? For golf, the clubhouse, and
Yeah, it's open this season, and you know, in addition to banquets, we're looking to open up for potentially like something similar to Tito's, but offer some dinner type things. So, and you know, I think people just stay tuned, and we'll start marketing that.
all right.
But that's the plan. We built all brand new kitchens up there as well. And that's really fully renovated. And so we're still renovating this winter. The downstairs is all being renovated up there. And we just need to go through all the building, check off the codes, and deal with the
We got Stonebridge, we got Valley View. At what point do you buy the other side of Hinckley and put in a golf course? So that Rockies can be on the lake and the golf course.
I keep saying no more. I'm done in that business.
I find that hard to believe.
I'm not going to do it. And if anybody that's, you know, works with me hears this, they'll be, you know, wanting to put a dagger in me or something, because saying stop, let us catch our breath first before you keep putting more on it.
All right. Well, we end all these with some rapid fire questions. Some are easier than others. The first one you already answered. We were going to ask you what your first job ever was, but you opened with the slaughterhouse, so that one we could take off the list. Go ahead, Kyle.
Morning routine must do.
Besides coffee and
That would be my answer, because that's
morning.
How do you take your coffee?
I take my coffee with a little chocolate and some collagen in it and a little milk in it.
Nice.
You know, trying to keep myself healthy as much as I could.
Yeah.
Collagen, I like
but,
it.
But yeah, I typically get up early and start figuring out what I'm going to do that day.
Yep.
Try to schedule it. And, I try to keep flex schedules so that I could take things randomly.
I'm sure things come up in your day that you need to be able
All day.
to.
All day. So
All right, best business advice, or one of the best pieces of advice you ever received.
the best business advice that I could probably ever have is love what you do. You have to love what you do to be great at it or good at it. If you don't love it, don't do it and get out of it.
That's fantastic advice. I was just talking to a friend of mine who's kind of in a transition, and I asked him. I said, "Well, what would you do if even if you didn't get paid to do it? Like, what lights you up? What are you passionate about? Like, even if you weren't getting paid, you'd still do this." And obviously, we want to get paid, but it starts with, what do you love?
Yeah. What do you enjoy?
Great answer.
Campground life, tent, RV, or cabin?
Oh, me, I'm a glamper.
Me too.
I like cabin.
Yeah, that's where it's at for me.
I've done the tenting, and I grew up in Branningham Lake with 9 children. I'm one of 9. I'm number 8 out of 9. And we used to call it Tent City because we had 5 tents outside the camp. And we lived there from the day after school to the day before school. And my mother, living with my mother, my father would commute on the weekends up to Branningham Lake. And, we didn't have a lot of money. And, so we tented. And after, once I got of age, it was like, I'm staying in the camps.
I slept in a tent once, and it was in my backyard with my son, Tyler. He said, I hate it. I said, thank God I don't ever want to do that again. And we
didn't spend a lot of time on Kuyahoora, and we won't here, but I do want to bring it up, right? Because that's quote unquote camping for some people, right? How many bedrooms? Like, give us a rundown of that
There's
home.
3 different buildings on the site, right, at Kuyahoora?
Kuyahoora, there was 10.
Okay.
Now there's 14 buildings, but there are 10 houses.
10
and now
different
there's 7.
Okay.
Tried to consolidate it a little
All right.
bit. There's 3 on the original Kuyahoora.
Okay. Maybe
property.
That's where I got that from.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, if anyone's looking, corporate retreats, family reunion,
Girls'
weddings,
weekend, just to get away.
I mean, 2-3 years ago, your cousin Tyler, the creator, was there.
Oh my God, our boys went crazy.
He was at 4th of July weekend, I think.
We were across the lake, and we were just hanging out on the beach, and these kids were like,
Oh, they lost
he's
their
here. I'm like, who's here? They're like, Tyler, the creator. I'm like, who is that? Like, this guy stayed at your retreat.
Well,
and
I don't even know if you know
you,
it, but he did a thing at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn.
He
right?
had a concert
and then
there.
he spent 4th of July weekend at your place on Hinckley. And, he had the whole security detail and the whole thing.
He had
He's
gold
huge.
jet
He's one of
skis.
the biggest performers in the world. And he found a frog, and he took a picture on your beach holding the frog.
The little frogs that we always
and
find
it got
up there.
like 20-something million
Crazy.
views. Yeah, right on your
It was a
beach
big
there,
deal.
so.
It was a big deal
yeah,
for
wow,
our kids.
So anyway, yeah,
for sure.
I had no clue who he was until he stayed there.
Neither did we. And then we got very educated very quickly.
We've had some pretty famous people
I'm sure
up
you
there
have.
that we don't.
Sure.
There's always
Keep
top
quiet.
security in there that we've had, like world famous. And it's
He
just,
is world famous, and we had
But
no idea.
he doesn't keep a low profile, though.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
talking world famous that doesn't want to be known.
Yeah, they don't want anybody
They don't want
there.
the public to know
Pretty
they're
much
there.
you have Secret Service almost, that type of level
That's awesome.
of people
That's
up
awesome.
there. So
Most underrated part of Utica.
I think the most underrated is just knowing how great the city is.
Yeah.
And the area is and what it all has to offer and being, positive about it because some people are still negative about it and negative Nellies. And I just think Utica is on, for the first time I could say in my life, and I'm not, trying to say anything negative about the past. For the first time in my life, I feel like Utica's been on an upswing.
Yeah.
And, I feel proud to live here.
Awesome.
Now I'm part-time. Obviously, I'm a Florida resident. I live in Florida. I travel around the world. I spend time here, especially in the summers, but I go back and forth a lot. I think this is, and that has to do with my wife after the COVID thing with the respiratory thing. But, it's just a great area. It has a lot to offer. There's no place better, especially in the summer. I think the winter's a little harsh. Maybe everybody's
Toughens
a
us
little
up.
challenged, but...
Yeah, but to your point, we have 3 teenagers, and I see the narrative changing
I do too,
with
for
this
sure.
generation. Like I think those negative Nellies, you're always going to have them, right? But I mean, overall, I think our kids and their friends, like they're proud to be from here, and they see what's cool about here.
And 2 out of our 3 kids are older boys who are
on
in college
record
right
with
now
they
are
wanna
on
stay
record
here.
with they want to live here. But I mean, and we're like you, we travel in the wintertime. We get away like once a month to warmer weather. But as far as like having a family and a community to call home, this is where we're happy for sure.
Well, I had 3 kids move out and leave for a while, and they all came back. And I think a lot of that has to be the family, the people you know, and it's the roots.
Yep.
So
For sure. Favorite way to spend a day off? You probably don't have a day off.
Days
but
off or when you don't work.
a couple hours.
just being around family and friends and just socializing and maybe get a little golf in there sometimes. But more importantly, being with people who you care for and that you love.
All right, last one. What does success mean to you or look like to you?
You know, I think that those goalposts keep getting moved. I think, again, it gets back to the real success, I think, is being healthy and having great people and family around you. And that really, to me, without having your family and friends and your health, nothing else matters.
Yeah, amen to that.
There's not enough money in the world that's going to make you happy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Sal, thank you for carving out time. I know you're super busy. Zing Green Safety Products, Romans, Tito's,
Stonebridge,
Rockies.
Yeah, we could. Yeah.
Whatever is coming next in 26 that we can't talk about yet, but I know is brewing in your head. Sal Longo, thank you for the conversation.
Scott and
Thank
Kelly.
you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.